everybody, and welcome back to another very special video installment of the B Movies podcast. We are here with writer-director Randy Moore and star Roy Abramsohn from Escape from Tomorrow, one of the most talked about films of the year.
People come here because they want to feel safe. Bad things happen everywhere, especially here. Be happy all the time.
Something's wrong with Elliot.
There's something going on here. It's this place.
You're inside my head. You've got quite an imagination. Just like old WG himself.
Daddy, let's go home.
Gentlemen, this is quite a film. This is Randy, this is your first film, first feature film. A lot of people are always concerned when they make their first feature film, how do I get attention? How do I get it out there? How do I get it noticed? And your film, just from the way that you decided to make it, seemed destined to be talked about. Was that on your mind, or did you this just the story you wanted to tell?
I actually kind of thought the reverse about this film, because I thought, due to the location and the fact that it was black and white, that it wouldn't be able, to sort of get much attention. Which is, for me, as a first-time filmmaker, it was kind of freeing, because I was thinking not a lot of people are going to see this movie, so I can just sort of experiment and do stuff, and play around with genres and things like that, and not worry about a lot of notoriety. Yeah. And so that was a mistake.
Because the film, and just for anyone who doesn't know, it's a drama about your character, Roy, and his family. They're at Disneyland. It seems like an idyllic paradise, but it is not. And you shot it at Disneyland and Disney World. And that's kind of what's getting all the attention right now is oh my God, you shot at Disneyland and they didn't know. Did you feel like you were getting away with something when you were doing it? Was there like this sort of rampant heist mentality while you were shooting?
There was no narcotic high while we were filming, like ha ha ha, we're getting away with doing this. It was just pervasive fear throughout the whole thing that they would ask us to leave the park, and then all these people that I'd brought on this journey with me, which started off small but just kind of grew and grew and grew, would then look at me like, thanks for wasting my time, So I was very, my goal was to finish the film, and then, I thought it would maybe have a life on, the festival circuit for a little while. I didn't really think that it had much chance of getting distribution due to, the obvious. Although I thought that was unfair. I thought morally, we had a right to make this movie because, Disney World is such a rite of passage for so many people, and it's so, ingrained in our cultural landscape. Everyone has a Disney story. Everyone goes there. It's such a universal experience. To not be able to comment on it, I felt seemed, just ridiculous. So I was like, basically, screw that. I'm going to tell the story the way I want to tell the story, and I'm not going to worry about any of the other issues until after we have our first cut.
The cool thing about shooting at Disneyland is that I feel like you almost couldn't make this movie if you had made up a theme park. It wouldn't have made any sense.
I wouldn't have wanted to, because there's Disneyland is part of the story. The mania, the fever, it's a corporate religion for so many people, and dare say the word cult, but there's cultish aspects of it. There's people who are, just crazy and, basically worshiping those characters, walking around the park. And there was a moment when we were, actually before I started writing the film, when I was at the park with my children, and there was a Phantasmic show, and at the end of it, Mickey Mouse appears on the top of this mountain, and in like a hail of fire and brimstone and like smoke and lasers and you name it, were coming out, and it all like happened as the music crescendoed, and it was this, giant, like, religious, like, moment, appearing on top of the mount, and everyone, like, and mostly even grown, men and women just gasped when he appeared, like they had seen, the second coming or something. And I was like, wow, there's like a fervor here that you can feel in the air, that everyone, and obviously these people had been like indoctrinated since they were children, and had gone when they were kids to the park and kept going, and then brought their own kids there, and that magic for them never went away. No one ever told them that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Was the magic real for you guys when you were kids, or were you never as enchanted with Disneyland as?
When I was a kid, the magic was totally 100% real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right?
Well, he grew up with his father taking him to Disney World, and which is where this really takes place. We doubled shots in Disneyland.
I'm an LA native,
Yeah,
so I'm always
so you gotta
default
do-
to Disneyland.
But it's
so, yeah.
it's mostly in the Orlando park.
Yeah.
But I went to Orlando when it first opened in like '71 or something, and my memory of that was I had lost $10 my uncle had given me, so I was miserable all day. That was my memory of the Orlando park. I didn't take my own two children to this one till a few years before I made the movie, and it was a bad day because someone had given me these tickets they had to use, and I couldn't enjoy it because my kids were too young to get on a lot of rides, and the certain ones we did wait for, it was a Saturday, was just a miserable wait in line for an hour and a half. There's actually a scene in our movie that's like a miserable wait in line.
Yeah.
And that was my first experience. Then I took them back there a couple of years later after we got, Randy had to buy everyone tickets to film the,
Did you go back to Orlando with
No, I went to this one in Disneyland, and because I knew the pass that I used to make the movie was running out soon, so I would save that money. And I also have a Disney Visa card, and I had points on that.
Do you
so-
still have a Disney Visa card?
Yeah, I do. I still.
They're
do.
going to cancel it now.
I know, maybe they will. But I took them all back there, and we had a much better time. They were old enough to see rides and do stuff.
Well, and by then you probably knew all the ins and outs.
Yeah, and I'd filmed there
'cause
for
you'd been
2
there
weeks.
for-
Yeah.
So I knew what rides I liked, what ones I thought, where to eat, and all the.
Patton Oswalt had a line about Disneyland I liked, which was, sometimes if you give an obsessive compulsive millions of dollars, they'll come up with some amazing stuff. And which is why I think it's such a fascinating backdrop, because it's so controlled. And in Escape from Tomorrow, you're trying to keep control of your family, you're trying to keep happy and have everything turn out okay, and yet you just lost your job, you're starting to hallucinate and parts of it. Does that connect to you guys, like in terms of that sort of irony? Was that irony present at all in the park?
The pressure of being a father, which we both are,
Yeah.
of 2 kids, which we both are,
Yeah.
and having to have a fun day, and it's got to be fun. And look, you feel the pressure when you drive in the parking lot of any theme park, I would think, but
Yeah.
especially these 2 places. You feel that pressure of I've got to have fun.
And you've also dropped a lot of money.
yeah, I mean,
It's a
for that
fortune just
day,
taking
yeah.
kids to
it's a
the
lot of
movies
money.
these days.
I'm angry when I pay $15 for the parking or whatever it is, and then before I even get in the park, I'm already pissed off. So to me,
We're going to
it's-
get our money's worth.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna get, and I remember the time I did take my kids there, the second time where we had a good time. I remember staying there trying to see every attraction. You're just worn. By the end of the day, I was just worn out to the point of like, we were just sniping. My wife and I were sniping at each other, and I don't know. It's
This
not
ruins families.
to me. Look, it's not my thing. When I see people there, like Randy said, who are cultish about it, like I saw Japanese tourists wearing Mickey Mouse ears in wedding dresses. She's getting married. She's got a set of Mickey Mouse ears on, and they're having their wedding there. To me, that is so odd.
Yeah.
I just don't know how else to put it. I'm not a joiner to begin with. I'm more of the opposite. So to me, to have such a private, wonderful moment at a theme park, any theme park, it just seems strange to me. So I don't understand that. Except I remember a guy I knew in LA who grew up going to the theme park, Disneyland here, and then he still has a year pass and he goes a few times a year. And when he told me that, I kind of looked at him like, and now
Is he single?
No, now he's married with his own kids and he takes them there. But he grew up in Southern California. So, but what I realized for him is this is Santa Claus. This is as emotionally important to him, this park, as that is. And I never understood that till I made this movie and saw the people that go there. the emotional tie to their happiness, which is really kind of what this movie's about, is a guy who's unhappy, shoved into this world of
Well, and I think it's also them trying to go back and recapture that like nostalgia of their own childhood. Like I say, when you go on, Pirates of the Caribbean now, you're kind of in between two worlds. Like you're going on it as an adult, and you're also like you're also kind of like reliving it as a child. If you just went on it for the first time as an adult and never had that experience as a child, it's totally different, which I found was like the case for my wife, who didn't grow up going. She's from another country, so she didn't grow up going to Disney World or Disneyland. And so when we went there for the first time with our kids, she had no memories to recall from her childhood there, and it was a completely different experience. Whereas I was still like trying to have the best day possible, and like we got to go on this ride. It's great because when I was a kid it was great, But
Yeah.
and I think that's what a lot of people carry around. It's like with McDonald's, when you eat the burger now, you're thinking of the Happy Meal you had when you were a kid at the same time,
Yeah.
And so without that early, indoctrination, it's a different place. And that's when I started looking around the edges and seeing, the cracks in the veneer and stuff and weird things going on that I normally wouldn't have even, wanted to look at, because I would be so like, set on having, okay, we got to go to Pirates, and then we got to go to this, and then we got to get, Mickey's autograph, and then we got to go here, and we got to do all of this before the fireworks, because we just spent, $100 on per person on doing this.
I mean, I had the same feeling when I went on a Disney cruise once. My father bought us all the Disney cruises. My kids were little, and we went on there, and it was like a race to get all the princesses' signatures, and it was like you're on a treadmill of I got to get this done because all the other kids are getting the signatures. So
My father took me on a Disney cruise
did he
once
really?
too. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is more of his Rosebud.
Yeah.
Which I said in an interview. I hope it's right. But I said it's kind of Randy's Rosebud. He grew up going to, and this is his big childhood memory, whereas it wasn't for me because I didn't grow up here or in Orlando.
What I find fascinating about the film is that Disneyland is a place for children. Children can experience it on a pure level, and we were talking about the frustrations that come into it as an adult when you take your own children. But the film's sympathy seems to be with Jim and all of his frustrations and all of the difficulties he has just keeping his shit together over the course of this film. And I liked how complex a character he gets to be. You get to see every side of him in this. The loving father, the disappointed husband. You even get a little predatory at times.
Yeah, I get definitely predatory.
Yeah. What was that? Was that difficult for you to create? Does it make the character easier to embody or more difficult?
No, to me, to play a complex character is easier. It's easier because I think that way. I think on different. How do I say? I have many different levels. I guess I don't know. I have.
Because you're a complex
I'm
character.
I think I'm kind of. I don't know. I like to think of myself as complex. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just simple like any other guy. But I think the complexity comes from his. He's got a marriage he's trying to hold together. Look, I remember when this screened at Ebert Fest, and a woman came up to me, this Midwest woman came up to me. I thought she was going to say, oh, I hated this bizarre movie where you're following these girls around. And she said to me, I used to work at one of these theme parks, I forget which one. She said, I remember people on the rides doing, I try to kiss my wife on the ride with my kids who are in front of us in the car, and it's in dark, we're in the dark.
Yeah.
She goes, and she explained the whole thing to me. She said, people come here from the Midwest, they're in one room, and the father thinks he's going to have a good time with his wife, but he can't because the kids are in the other bed next to them. And so they get on the ride, she said, and they start, the fathers usually go for the wife on the ride, and she said, you'd be surprised how many things go on those rides. And I was like, really? I had no clue. I thought it was just a scene Randy created. But those frustrations do build, and I think he is complex. He wants his kids he wants his family to be happy. I mean, that's what every father really wants. But at the same time, his marriage isn't great. And so what most guys do when their marriage isn't great, they try to stray. And I don't know if he's not just straying, he's getting led on almost by these girls. And you don't know what's in it for them. It's almost film noirish, Twilight Zone-ish, the way they're flirting with him too. These girls that are definitely not they're definitely, not only is he married, they're definitely too young for him to be going after.
Well, she even says they're a little young even for you, which implies
Yeah.
that this is a pattern on
Yeah,
some
I'm glad you
level.
picked that up because
Yeah.
sometimes, it seems to be a pattern with him. And she says a line about, you didn't black out again, did you? Like you get the feeling
Right.
he's had some drinking problems in the past, or
Yeah.
still does.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's no fun to play the hero, and it's no. To me, I love characters like that are, have a little, underside to them, that they're not just all good. I mean, that's no fun. You always remember the villain in a movie, or the guy who with the problems.
What was your initial thought with Jim? I mean, was Roy's interpretation, did that change your
It
opinion
was
of Jim?
great
or-
because when I started handing the script around to people, like in my mind, he's definitely, he's on the line between being a hero and anti-hero the whole time. He's not, obviously, not everything he does in the film is, with the most noble of intentions. But I didn't realize how much people didn't like the character until I started reading the script. And then, or not reading the script, having the script, getting notes back on the script from people that I trusted. So when it came time to cast, I knew I needed to find someone who was instantly likable, almost, and Roy was that guy, like, no matter what he was doing, sort of like Michael Douglas in Fatal Attraction, you would go along with him and you'd root for him, and so that was Roy, and that was just good luck that we found him on the very first day of casting, and never forgot about him, and you just want him, to succeed and do well, no matter what horrible situation you put him in. So
Yeah. And you put him in some really horrible situations. This film gets really hallucinatory after a while. I think I've used that word before, but I think it's true. When you were coming up with that notion, was that always the notion when you were writing the screenplay,
so.
that it would go that insane?
yeah, it
What-
was.
Okay. What was were you just trying to play with the iconography of Disney and try to subvert people's expectations, or were you trying to go for shock? Or
I definitely wanted to mess with the iconography, but I also wanted to sort of get, go from the external experience to the internal experience of what people, feel when they're on these rides. So we did it in a very, subjective and surreal way by, having the dolls start, changing and warping and morphing into evil demons on Small World.
and that happens early in the film, and then it feels like there's a bit of a break before the hallucination. Was that just were you trying to tease people like this is coming, or what were you getting at with putting it right there? Because it seems like you could have built gradually, and instead you put a tease at the beginning.
Well, Small World just lends itself to being such a strange experience. And for a while, when he reunites with the girls again, after he goes on that ride, they sort of, push the nightmare down for him a little bit because he's able to sort of escape from his current situation. So it's not until they sort of disappear for a while that then it starts to come back again. That was the original.
Tell me about the Siemens Corporation.
I can't really talk on camera about the Siemens.
They'll get you. They'll get you. Well, the Siemens Corporation, I don't want to ruin it for people to see the film because I want people to explore it and discover it and all that jazz. But it's tied into, it seems like there's a lot of urban legends about Disney and maybe he's frozen underneath the Matterhorn or people who've died at the park or what have you. Were you inspired by any stories you'd specifically heard, or does this all from your imagination?
Well, there is a Base 21 that's under Spaceship Earth, which is the giant geodesic sphere in Epcot Center. And I didn't know what it was at first. I later found out, and it's not, of course, anything like it is in the movie. But I sort of ran with that in my imagination, and started thinking of well, what's its purpose? Base 21, sort of I'm blanking. What's the base in Nevada that they just
Area
declassified?
51.
Area 51.
Yeah.
But this is Base 21. Sorry. And so all those Disney conspiracy theories and stuff just started kind of bouncing around, and I tried to incorporate them. And I did always think it was strange that there's so many corporate tie-ins to this, you know,
I mean,
giant
it is
company.
the sponsor, right? I mean,
They sponsored the fireworks show. They
That's-
sponsored that ride. They do a lot with, you know, I think the whole energy infrastructure of the park is either, you know, built or designed by that company. So and on the website, it's like they provide the power that makes the magic, you know. And I was like, well, then, you know, we have to discuss you in some way.
And you go inside in this particular scene right here, and I'm being a pretentious film critic, but you put Jim's head in a geodesic dome while he's inside the geodesic dome. It's like we're in his head, man. And we get a lot of really Freudian imagery with some attractive naked ladies, and then there's a geosporic gets shot around. What was that sequence like? Did you have a talk with Roy about what exactly it meant, or was that left to your interpretation?
It's funny. Throughout the process, from the minute I read the script, I didn't get it. I'm kind of a blonde that way, I hate to say. I really look at each scene like, how am I going to play that scene? And I never really got it until I saw it a bunch at Sundance. I didn't understand the movie on the level that you did. And I would ask him, and I would say, like, well, why are we doing that? And he would be kind of cryptic and be like, well, you know, because this happens. I don't think he really...
You know, I kind of felt, honestly, for Roy's character, that sort of confusion
know. It's
better
really,
if he didn't
really
get it.
helped,
Yeah.
because he was sort of being bounced around like a, you know, pinball the whole time.
Yeah, like I would come up to him and go, well, why are we doing this? Or I would say something like, why can't I go up to the older of those two girls? And Randy would go like, because I want it to be uncomfortable, you know. And I didn't understand why. Now I do, and I see it all. I didn't understand why he did it in black and white. When I first found that out before we even started shooting, I was like, what? Now I'll never be seen. Now this is never. I mean, my first reaction is just selfishly, I'm never going to be seen in this movie now, because no one sees black and white movies anymore. Not to mention ones that are filmed in places like this. So I remember coming home telling my wife, like, well, I'll just you know do it, and when I'm done, whatever, it'll be another project that I won't see the result of. So, but all these choices, like, you know, I got to give him kudos for sticking to those original difficult choices, not just where it's shot, but to do it in black and white, to do things that are uncomfortable, to wait for. I remember asking, why is this taking so long? Ray was like, well, I'm waiting for a certain composer. And I'm thinking, God, we're in LA, there's a million great composers, you know? But he was like, no, I like this one. And then when you see the movie, you realize the music is so beautiful in the movie that almost antithetical to what's going on sometimes in the scene.
Yeah.
It supports it in a way. So he made some choices that, you know, I questioned throughout, but I think it was kind of nice. Now I see why he never told me, you know, certain things. I was confused.
Will your next film be more conventionally shot, do you think?
The reason this was quote unquote guerrilla was because there was no other way to do it, you know. So I'm not looking, you know, if the next film has to be done that way, God help us, because you know, it's rough. It's not the most ideal way to make a movie by any means.
You know, it's interesting. I'll go back to an earlier question.
Sure.
You mentioned about were we high or narcotic?
Was there any excitement about that? Yeah.
And that kind of goes away after the first few days when you're kind of you're in the park and you realize that people aren't watching you and you know, there's no booms and giant lights around. It's like no one knows you're doing this. So it becomes kind of like hiding in plain sight. You're not really you're really thinking about doing the scenes the best you can. He's thinking about directing it the best way he can. I'm thinking about playing it the best way I can.
It didn't go away from me.
Well, you're under so much pressure because if you don't get all your footage, then you again waste the
That's
time.
right.
And
And we
money.
were building sets in Occidental Studios in
Like this
Silver
set
Lake
right
while
there.
we were in the park. So it's like if we got shut down too early during the park, then all that stuff that's going on there, you know, would go to waste. And also, obviously, like I said, all the people who trusted me and, you know, jumped on board.
Did you ever have any
would be
close
let
calls?
down. We did have one close call.
I should tell the story. We were on our way in the park. It was the last weekend of shooting in Anaheim, and it was an early morning, I remember, and we had just checked into the hotels the night before. I don't know how many rooms, like 8 or 9 rooms you got at hotels for everyone in the cast, probably, and the kids' parents were there. And we went in the park, and we did a shot where we're entering, and we did it again. Then someone comes up, usually someone else would come up PA would come and say, hey, do that shot again. Put the it was us entering the park. That was the shot. It's not in the film anymore. But a security guard came up and said, excuse me, sir, come over here. Why did you enter the park twice in 7 minutes? And I thought quickly, I said, well, I left the sunscreen outside and had to put sunscreen on the kids, and that's why we went back out and came back in.
Smart thinking.
And then he says to me, are you a celebrity? And I said, why do you think I'm a celebrity? He says, well, because there's paparazzi following you around the park. And then I realized that he was talking about our camera guys.
Ah.
Because there's a certain protocol for paparazzi to be for celebrities to be led through the park. They can't just walk through like Britney Spears goes. I guess you have to be led through a certain way. So he kind of stopped us, and then I had sound equipment on, so I went into the bathroom. I told him, I said, "Okay, my son, you need to use the bathroom. Can we go in there?" Because I wanted to take the sound equipment off, which was a tape recorder in our pockets going up to a wired mic under our shirt. So I thought if they asked me to put it in my pockets, I used to say, what do you have, a tape recorder? And the next question is, when he looks at my ID, is why does your son have a different last name as you? Because, my son has got his ID through his mother.
Yeah, that's starting to look bad.
So I was like, uh-oh, all this thoughts. And at the same time, he says, I want you to wait right here. Right when you enter there, it was that got very scary.
Yeah.
And I went in the bathroom, I took the sound equipment off, and I didn't know what to do with it because I was about to throw it away. I remember I saw this vision of my hand in the trash can, throwing this tape recorder away, and then going, wait a minute, I could have weeks of sound on this. I don't know what's on this. I was like, uh-oh. So I put it in my big dad tube socks.
I'm glad you didn't throw it down.
I know. I was like, I just put it in my tube socks thinking, maybe that'll be the last place they check, It was like one of those things like Caught Abroad, one of those TV shows you watch where like...
No one hides anything in their socks.
I know, well, I didn't know where else...
You're the first.
I didn't have time to put it anywhere even more secret, so my sock was the least painful choice. So I put my kids in the sock and mine, and then I left, and his back was towards me, and there was kind of a parade that was going on there at the same time. I remember a big goofy character, and PA walked by me, said, hey, get out of the park, get into the production van, get into the white van in the parking lot. And he walked right by me as he said it. He just walked by quickly, get in the production van. And I was like, I looked at my wife, she was over there, and I said, hey, let's go. And this guy's back was to me, and the parade was kind of there, and more security were around now, and we went to the turnstiles, but when we hit the turnstiles, then we just ran. I was just like, literally, I remember the kid playing my son. I was like he was in the air. I had him by his hand, but he was like, he couldn't even run as fast as I was trying to run, because I knew this was, they could still catch us. And we got in the production van, we sped away, and as we sped away, I remember looking out the back window of the van, and there was like a guy he looked like just a gardener or something, but he was like looking at the van, writing down the license of the van, and that's when I realized, wow, they're serious, They didn't know who I was, and I don't know what happened to the camera guys. They were gone. I don't know.
They were riding the Matterhorn.
Was that what they did?
That's what they did.
Nice.
Because when I looked around, as soon as he asked me where the paparazzi, I looked around, they were gone. They were like vaporized. So that was the scariest it got.
Yeah.
And there were other moments like that were hard, that were exciting. And the one point that it got to that narcotic feel of doing an illicit shoot, because I never thought of it like that.
It was never like that.
I never thought.
I'll just reiterate that.
That's fine.
The only time it was doing the fireworks scene, because it had to be at night. Every night, I think we did it 8 nights or 9 nights in a row, because we had to wait till the fireworks.
Yeah, you only get so many shots at it.
And so it's only 15 minutes long. So the camera guys are like following. This Lucas Graham's amazing. He can like go backwards as fast as I can run forwards with the camera, and it's dark. You're in a crowd. I'm bumping into people. I'm turning. I remember turning a kid around, and going, "Sarah, is that you?" And then quickly going, just enough that I would just.
You've taken it too far.
I would
a few
just
times,
leave. Yeah, you want to make it real.
You were into it, yeah. Gentlemen, is there anything you want to say to the audience about Escape from Tomorrow? Just
October 11th, theaters. It's nationwide.
I think in Chicago it's a different date though, like October.
Chicago's coming, I think, on the 25th, and it's also day and date, so video on demand. You can get it on that.
Now, someone asked if it's on iTunes.
Yes.
So it's on iTunes
on
video on demand.
October 11th.
All right. Everyone, check out Escape from Tomorrow. I think it's an excellent film.